Namaste. Aloha. My name is Janapati Das, and welcome to the Bhagavad Gita as it is class. We will be reading through some more verses in chapter 12. So please accept my respects, everyone. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto my spiritual master, Jagaguru Siddhaswarapananda Paramahamsa Srila Prabhupada, and to His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who has translated and purported upon the Bhagavad Gita as it is. Excuse me, just getting over a cold. And we are going to chant some right now, so please join along. Namo Siddhaswarapananda Paramahamsa Namine Gaurakaruna Swarupaya Radhakrishna Krishnayate Namo Siddhaswarapananda Paramahamsa Namine Gaurakaruna Swarupaya Radhakrishna Prishtayate Aja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Gaurabhakta Aja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Rama, Rama Hare, Hare Bo. Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada. Haribo. Krishna. Namo Siddha Swarupananda Paramahamsa Namine Gaurakaruna Swarupaya Radhakrishna Prasthayate. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So happy Thursday as we are entering the weekend. Those of you on Hawaii anticipating our huge storm that's going to be hitting us tonight. We'll see how that goes. And our spiritual master, Jagaguru Siddha Swarupananda Paramahamsa Srila Prabhupada, our life and soul, said that when you're in a hurricane, like the material life is like being in a hurricane. And I don't know if you've ever been in a hurricane. I haven't personally been in a hurricane, but I've been in typhoons, which are like the Asia version of hurricanes, and they're pretty crazy. But in the hurricane, you can't fight against the wind. You can't try to go outside of it, and it's just like impossible to get out of. But you go to the center of the hurricane, it's the eye of the storm, and that's where Krishna is. Krishna's holy names are. Our spiritual master is at the eye of the storm, and that is where peace and stability and happiness is, despite all the great hullabaloo of material life that seems to want to blow us around. If we try to fight it, or we try to get into it, we try to engage ourselves in it, we will not win. We will be battered, we will be beaten, we'll be thrown around. But we take the shelter in the eye of the storm where there's peace. The whole Harinama, Harinama, Harinama Eva Kevalam. The names of Krishna are our shelter. Krishna is our shelter from the storm of material life. So let's read. We left off in chapter 12, and Arjuna had asked these questions. I'm going to read them again. Arjuna inquired, which is considered to be more perfect, those who are properly engaged in your devotional service, or those who worship the impersonal Brahman, the unmanifested? Arjuna has already surrendered to Krishna, but he's asking intelligent questions so that those who come after him, the people who read the Bhagavad Gita in the future, can clearly understand. Not only is Krishna the source, the source and the center of the Bhagavad Gita, and the center of all creations, all spiritual worlds, material worlds, Um, those devotees of Krishna engaged in his personal form, with his personal form in devotional service, are greater than those who worship the impersonal Brahma Jyoti, the Brahma effulgence that come off of his body. And this is what Krishna tells Arjuna. For one who worships me, giving up all his activities unto me, I being devoted to me without deviation, engaged in devotional service and always meditating upon me, who has fixed his mind upon me, O son of Prita. For him I am the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death. We've made this analogy. The material life is like, if you really look at a map and contemplate, sometimes it's really hard to notice because you can't like have a visual of how big something is until you've actually been out on the ocean. Like if you've been on a cruise or something and you're just basically going through ocean for days and days. And people used to take ship trips, Bhaktivedanta, it took them months, 6 months or something to get from India or England to New York. And it's just such, we of course have faster ways of getting across the ocean, but just to give you the idea of the depth of the ocean and the width of the ocean, and then the depth. Some places they haven't even been to the bottom of there's like the deepest part of the Pacific Ocean is considered to be able to put like, I don't know, something like 5 Mount Everests in that, in that level. I guess it's 5, but it's so deep, some of those caverns in the ocean. And you would imagine that the analogy of being dropped into the middle of the Pacific Ocean with no islands and no boats anywhere, even if you are a expert swimmer, you will not last long in that situation. So we are lost in this material world, but Krishna states that one who devotes themselves sincerely, focusing their mind upon Krishna, being one-pointed, steady, not deviated. Krishna is the swift deliverer. It actually states, Bhaktivedanta states that there are many other processes by which you can, yoga processes that you can eventually come to the same point. But for one who is devoted in devotional service to Krishna, Krishna personally comes and takes the devotee home. And this has been stated by our spiritual master that one could just take the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda, Lord Chaitanya, and hold on to them, and Krishna will come and take, and they will go back to Krishna. It's unfathomable, because I feel, personally, I'm really a sinful person, and so it gives me hope that if I can just be pleasing to my spiritual master and to Krishna, then we can go home, we can go home to Krishna at the end of this life. And Krishna goes on and states, just fix your mind upon me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and engage all your intelligence in me, which I don't have so much intelligence, but maybe I have a little bit of intelligence that I chant Krishna's names. Thus you will live in me always without a doubt. Very wonderful. Actually, I think I jumped ahead. Okay, so actually I did jump ahead, sorry. I was reading this on, but a little bit of know what's coming up, though. We actually left off at text 5. Sorry, I'm going to read the Sanskrit. Kleso dika taras tesham avyakta shakta chetasham avyakta hi gatir dukyam devadi dehavad bil apyatye. Kleshaha, trouble. Ajikatara, more troublesome. Tesham, of those. Avyakta, unmanifested. Ashakta, being attached. Chetasham, of those whose minds. Avyakta, unmanifested. He, certainly. Gati, dukyam, process is troublesome. Dehavad, be, of the embodiments. Avapyate, achieve. Translation, text 5. For those whose minds are attached to the unmanifested impersonal feature of the Supreme, advancement is very troublesome. To make progress in that discipline is always difficult for those who are embodied. So, the process of attaining the Brahma Jyoti, Brahma Nirvanam Kalpa Samadhi, merging into the white light of Krishna, is very difficult to do. It's much easier to chant Krishna's names, and it's troublesome. It requires such discipline, and you can't like deviate or fall off of that path. And whereas if you practice devotional service, it says even the devotee who's gone off the path can come back on and start where they left off. The group of transcendentalists who follow this path of the inconceivable, unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Supreme Lord are called Jnana Yogis, and persons who are in full Krishna consciousness engaged in devotional service to the Lord are called Bhakta Yogis. Now here the difference between Jnana Yoga and Bhakti Yoga is definitely expressed. The process of Jnana Yoga, although ultimately bringing one to the same goal, is very troublesome, whereas the path of Bhakti Yoga, the process of being in direct service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is easier and is natural for the embodied soul. The individual soul is embodied since time immemorial. It is very difficult for him to simply theoretically understand that he is not the body. Therefore, the Bhakti Yogi accepts the deity of Krishna as worshipable, because there is some bodily conceptions fixed in the mind, which can thus be applied. Of course, worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in His form within the temple is not idol worship. There is evidence in the Vedic literature that worship may be saguna and nirguna of the Supreme possessing or not possessing attributes. Worship of the deity in the temple is saguna worship, for the Lord is represented by material qualities. But the form of the Lord, though represented by material qualities such as stone, wood, or oil paint, is not actually material. That is the absolute nature of the Supreme Lord. A crude example may be given here. We may find some mailboxes on the street, and if we post our letters in those boxes, they will naturally go to their destination without difficulty. But any old box or an imitation which we may find somewhere, which is not authorized by the post office, will not do the work. Similarly, God has an authorized representation in the deity form, which is called Arka Vigraha. This Arka Vigraha is an incarnation of the Supreme Lord. God will accept service through that form. The Lord is omnipotent and all-powerful. Therefore, by his incarnation as Arka Vigraha, he can accept the services of the devotee just to make it convenient for a man in conditioned life. Actually, one of the 9 forms of devotional service includes the worshiping Krishna in the deity form, worshiping Krishna in your altar. So for a devotee, there is no difficulty in approaching the Supreme immediately and directly, but for those who are following the impersonal way to spiritual realization, the path is difficult. They have to understand the unmanifested representation of the Supreme through such Vedic literatures as the Upanishads, and they have to learn the language and understand the non-perceptual feelings, and they have to realize all these processes. This is not very easy for a common man. A person in Krishna consciousness, engaged in devotional service, simply by the guidance of the bona fide spiritual master, simply by offering regulative obeisances unto the deity, simply by hearing the glories of the Lord, and simply by eating the remnants of foodstuffs offered to the Lord, realizes the Supreme Personality of Godhead very easily. There is no doubt that the impersonalists are unnecessarily taking a troublesome path with the risk of not realizing the absolute truth at the ultimate end. But the personalist, without any risk, trouble, or difficulty, approaches the Supreme Personality directly. A similar passage appears in Srimad Bhagavatam. It is stated there that if one has to ultimately surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the surrendering process is called bhakti, but instead takes the trouble to understand what is Brahman and what is not Brahman, and spends his whole life in that way, the result is simply troublesome. Therefore, it is advised here that one should not take up this troublesome path of self-realization, because there is an uncertainty in the ultimate result. A living entity is eternally an individual soul, and if he wants to merge into the spiritual whole, he may accomplish the realization of the eternal and knowledgeable aspects of his original nature, but the blissful portion is not realized. It's not, you can't experience blissfulness being a merged state. By the grace of some devotee, such as a transcendentalist highly learned in the process of Jnana Yoga, may come to the point of Bhakti Yoga or devotional service. At that time, long practice in impersonalism also becomes a source of trouble, because he cannot give up the idea. Therefore, an embodied soul is always in difficulty with the unmanifest, both at the time of practice and at the time of realization. Every living soul is partially independent, and one should know for certain that this unmanifested realization is against the nature of his spiritual blissful self. One should not take up this process. It's just very simple. Bhaktivedanta like, forget it. Why go through the trouble of doing all these austerities, and you could just be chanting and eating prasadam and gauging in this process, which is so much more fun and easy. For every individual living entity, the process of Krishna consciousness, which entails full engagement in devotional service, is the best way. If one wants to ignore this devotional service, there is the danger of turning to atheism. Thus, this process of centering attention on the unmanifested, the inconceivable, which is beyond the approach of the senses, as already expressed in this verse, should never be encouraged at any time, especially in this age. It is not advised by Lord Krishna. So, Lord Krishna, being the speaker of the Bhagavad Gita and the source of all things, including the Brahma Jyoti, which people want to try to merge into, is advising this is not a good process to do. just surrender unto me, he says. Text 6 and 7. Ye tu sarvani karmani mai sanyasya matparaha anadyenaiva yogena mam daya yanta upashate teshamaham samudarta mritu samsara shagarat bhavami na chirat partha mai aveshita chetasam. Yea, one who, tu but, sarvani everything, karmani activities, mai unto me, shanyasya giving up, matparaha being attached to me, ananyena without division, eva certainly, yogena by practice of such bhakti yoga, mam unto me, dayayanta meditating, upashate worship, tesham of them, aham I, samudarta deliverer, mritu that, samsara material existence, sagarat from the ocean, bhavami become, na chilat not a long time, partha osanaprita, my unto me, aveshita fixed, chetasam of those whose minds are like that. For one who worships me, giving up all activities unto me, and being devoted to me without deviation, engaged in devotional service and always meditating upon me, who has fixed his mind upon me, O son of Pritha. For him I am the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death. So we've jumped ahead a little bit on this, and of course, and commented on this. But one thing that is wonderful, once again, we come across this word, which is one of the words of worship, upasate, which really means to come closer to, right? Come closer to sit closely. Upa coming from Upanishads, to meaning to sit close, which is a figuratively sitting close when the disciple sits below his spiritual master. He sits closely so he can hear the spiritual wisdom coming from the spiritual master. But also it is a one in will, Krishna, the disciple has one in will with his spiritual master, with Krishna or Lord Chaitanya. He's sitting as close as he can spiritually to his spiritual master. So here are all these characteristics, once again, of giving up all activities unto me. So dovetailing his will, what he does, like Krishna telling Arjuna to fight for him without attachment to the results. Let that be your offering to me. Being devoted to me without deviation. So there is no one other than Krishna you should be dedicated to. Engaged in devotional service, right? That's the upasate also. Oh, that's another one. Oh, actually, engaged in devotional service is bhajante, which is to render loving service to, which is also a word they translate as worship. Meditating upon me, fixing your mind upon me. This basically engaging in Krishna consciousness. It is explicitly stated here that the devotees are very fortunate to be delivered very soon from material existence by the Lord. In pure devotional service, one comes to the realization that God is great. Nitya Nityanam Chaitanas Chaitanam. And that the individual soul is subordinate to him. His duty is to render service to the Lord. If not, he will render service to Maya. So this is a great summary, right? God is great. Krishna is great. We are the infinitesimal sparks of God placed as atoms at the lotus feet of Krishna. We are subordinate. Our duty, our Sanatana Dharma, our eternal function in this life is to render loving service to Krishna. If not, we will have to serve Maya Devi, or the external energy. If we do not wish to directly serve Krishna, we will indirectly serve Krishna. So as Bob Dylan famously said, you've got to serve somebody. It might be the devil, it might be the Lord, but you got to serve somebody. And this is the reality of this. If you do not want to serve Krishna, you can't just say, well, I'm not going to serve anybody. I'm just going to serve myself. And that's actually serving Maya. So you're actually serving, by default, going to serve Maya. And Maya is a cruel master. She beats you up really bad. As stated before, the Supreme Lord can only be appreciated by devotional service. Therefore, one should be fully devoted. One should fix his mind fully on Krishna in order to achieve him. One should work only for Krishna. It does not matter what kind of work one engages, but that work should be done only for Krishna. That is the standard of devotional service. The devotee does not desire any achievement other than pleasing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yeah, this is a love fest, really. The greatest achievement we can have is to please our spiritual master. When we please our spiritual master by chanting Krishna's names, by doing all these things here, we are pleasing to Krishna. And when we're pleasing to Krishna, we're pleasing to our spiritual master. And this makes us very happy. We feel very pleased that we are internally happy because Krishna is pleased within our heart. If we are displeasing, we will know it. We will know it right away. his life mission is to please Krishna, and he can sacrifice everything for Krishna's satisfaction, just as Arjuna did on the battle of Kurukshetra. Yeah, the sacrifices that we make, I mean, if you consider Arjuna's position, he was about to enter into a massive battle. I mean, just like how it was described in the Mahabharata that there were so many people killed so quickly that there were rivers of blood, and it looked like silver timgila fish, the earrings on the heads of the severed heads of the warriors that were being killed, and there were elephant limbs and bodies and rivers of blood. That's the description. There was so much blood, so much massacring. And Arjuna was being asked to go out and fight without the attachment of Krishna, to do his best to fight with Krishna in mind. That was his garland to Krishna, you know, the fruit, the flower, and the leaf. We're thinking, wow, okay, I just get a pretty little plumeria and, you know, da-da-da. But you know, the you know, when it states just offer me a fruit, a flower, a little water, a leaf, and I will accept it. Krishna was stating what he really wants is the devotion or the love that goes behind it. So Krishna is telling Arjuna to fight with me in mind, fight in your devotion to me. So Arjuna, being the great warrior he was, fought to the greatest that he could. And it wasn't like there's, you know, it's not, people think, how do you think about Krishna? You know, it's like, well, it's because your consciousness has changed. You know, I'm doing this for Krishna. You may not be directly when you're not like going around like, oh, let me do my japa while I'm shooting arrows with one hand, or let me chant Hare Krishna when I'm doing, you know, or whatever, and let me do my offering to the deity while I fend off these, whatever, you know. He's like focused completely, and his dedication, he's doing that for Krishna. So in our process in our life, when we do things for Krishna, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're always going to be thinking directly about Krishna, but we're still thinking about Krishna. We know that we have firm conviction that I'm doing this the best I can with all the strengths and intelligence and abilities in particular fields to the best of my knowledge, because it's pleasing to Krishna. That's where it comes in. Instead of it being like, well, what's pleasing for me? You know, like, okay, most people are just like, fuck my job. I hate that job. I don't see it as Krishna's mercy. They're just like, I want to get I want to have fun, you know, so I want to get my paycheck, go out and meet some girls, or some guys if you're a girl, or a guy if you're a guy, and you're gay, whatever. Or you're going to get some drugs or some alcohol and go out and have a really nice lobster and steak dinner, you know, and you're just like, I'm going to enjoy, I'm going to drink till I'm sick, you know. And that's just all about what you can do for yourself. And you have to, there's a price that you get from that, or there's a reward that you get from that activity. But if you're doing it for Krishna, there's no karmic reaction, but there may be material rewards that come along with it, but you can continue to apply that with the consciousness of a devotee, with the aim to be pleasing to Krishna. And what comes to mind immediately is the Sudama Brahmin, the story of the Sudama Brahmin. You can go back to my Krishna videos and listen to those again if you forgot about that. Sudama Brahmin was very poor, and his wife asked him to ask Krishna for some material boons, right? But the Sudama Brahmin was not attached to that. But he did think, oh, I can go see Krishna. And so he went to see Krishna. And Krishna was so happy to see him, and they reminisced, right, about those pastimes as brahmacharis. And Krishna knew. He took the chipped rice that his wife had given to him, ate a morsel of it, and was benedicted him the Sudama Brahmin with the incredibly opulent palace and money and servants and whatnot. And what did Sudama Brahmin do? He didn't say, oh, now I got money, so I'm going to stop going to church. It's like, I'm going to just enjoy. No, he was like, oh, this is Krishna's mercy. Either way, it's Krishna's mercy. Krishna's mercy. Krishna's given me this. Now I'll give it back to him in love and devotion. And then when I have to leave this world, I leave it behind. It's not like I'm attached to it. So very wonderful things here done, sacrificing everything for Krishna's satisfaction. The Supreme Lord herein promises that he will without delay deliver a pure devotee, thus engaged from the ocean of material existence. Those who are advanced in yoga practice can willfully transfer the soul to whatever planet they like by the yoga process. And others take the opportunity in various ways. But as far as the devotee is concerned, it is clearly stated here that the Lord himself takes him. He does not need to wait to become very experienced in order to transfer himself to the spiritual sky. So there are many yogic processes Krishna details in the Bhagavad Gita, but Krishna makes it very clear that the devotee of Krishna, who is devoted to Krishna, who fixes their mind upon Krishna, who gives their life to Krishna and their love to Krishna, Krishna will come personally and be the swift deliverer. There is no need to go through difficult processes, impersonal processes of Brahman realization or anything. It doesn't have to be a Jnana yogi. It's okay to be a Jnana yogi as long as it's for Krishna. In the Varaha Purana, right, that must be interesting. Varaha, right, the boar incarnation. This verse appears. Nayami paramam stadnam achiradi gatim vina garuda skandam aropya yatecham anivarata. The purport of this verse is that a devotee does not need to practice Ashtanga Yoga in order to transfer his soul to the spiritual planets. So we stated the Ashtanga Yoga, right? It's not some kind of thing that you take at a yoga retreat. A lot of people like to famously coin something as Ashtanga Yoga, but there's actually a process in yama, niyama, asana, pratyahara, pranayam, dhyana, dhyana, dhyana. Let's get those two mixed up. And samadhi, right? But samadhi is the immersion of Krishna. But you don't have to go through all the steps that used to be a former process that they were in previous ages. But Krishna is stating that it's not necessary to go through all the steps of Ashtanga Yoga before you dedicate your devotion to Krishna, or to be able to transfer your soul to the spiritual planets. The responsibility is taken by the Supreme Lord himself. He clearly states here that he himself becomes the deliverer. A child is completely cared for by his parents, and thus his position is secure. Similarly, a devotee does not need to endeavor to transfer himself by yoga practice to other planets. Rather, the Supreme Lord, by his great mercy, comes at once, riding on his bird carrier Garuda, and at once delivers the devotee from this material existence. So the famous painting, Krishna riding on Garuda, and the devotee in the ocean of material existence, and reaching up. Krishna is pulling him out of the ocean. Beautiful. Although a man who has fallen in the ocean may struggle very hard and may be very expert in swimming, he cannot save himself. Yes. So any kind of material intelligence, the ascending process, the abilities of thinking very well, of logically, philosophically, having any kind of physical strength, or what is the word? I'm trying to think of the word. The strength or ability or a vigor of a person, they cannot, by their own energy, propel themselves, save themselves. It's only by the mercy of Krishna they can surrender themselves. They can dedicate all those things to Krishna's service. And then that is a different situation. But if someone comes and picks him up from the water, then he is easily rescued. Similarly, the Lord picks up the devotee from this material existence. One simply has to practice the easy process of Krishna consciousness and fully engage himself in devotional service. Any intelligent man should always prefer the process of devotional service to all other processes. To all other paths. In the Narayaniya, this is confirmed as follows. Yavai Sadhana Sampati Purushartha Chatushtaye Taya Vinatad Apnoti Naro Narayana Ashraya. The purport of this verse is that one should not engage in the different processes of fruitive activity or cultivate knowledge by the mental speculative process. One who is devoted to the Supreme Personality can attain all the benefits derived from other yoga processes, speculation, rituals, sacrifices, charities, etc. That is a specific benediction of devotional service. Simply by chanting the holy name of Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. A devotee of the Lord can approach the supreme destination easily and happily, but this destination cannot be approached by any processes of religion. The conclusion of Bhagavad Gita is stated in the 18th chapter, Sarva Dhamman Paritayajya Mamekam Saranam Vraja Aham Tvam Sarva Papebhyo Moksha Yishyami Mashuchaha. One should give up all other processes of self-realization and simply execute devotional service in Krishna consciousness. This will enable one to reach the highest perfection of life. There is no need for one to consider the sinful actions of his past life because the Supreme Lord fully takes charge of him. Thank God. Thank Krishna. Therefore, one should not futilely try to deliver himself in spiritual realization. Let everyone take shelter of the supreme omnipotent Godhead Krishna. That is the highest perfection of life. A beautiful purport. And I'm going to read one more verse because I read this for another Yoga Kirtan Hawaii. And it just came to me when I was reading this purport, thinking about what Bhaktivedanta Swami said in that, about the Maha Mantra. So text 8. Mayeva mana adhatshva. Mai buddhim nivaishaya. Nivaishishashi mayeva. Ata urdvam na samshaya. Mai unto me eva certainly. Manaha mind. Adhatshva fix mai upon me. Buddhim intelligence. Nivaishaya apply. Nivaishishashi you lead. Mai unto me. Eva certainly. Ata therefore. Urdvam up na never. Samshaya doubt. Just fix your mind upon me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and engage all your intelligence in me. Thus you will live in me always without a doubt. Beautiful verse. God, I love that. And once again, Krishna is already stating that he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So I don't know where people get it. They just probably have to translate something else. Fixing your mind upon the Krishna, with engaging your intelligence, and you will be in Krishna. So Krishna is with you. Always Krishna is with you. Purport: one who is engaged in Lord Krishna's devotional service lives in direct relationship with the Supreme Lord. So there is no doubt that his position is transcendental from the very beginning. This is what the Bhagavad Gita, the Song of God, is about. It's about this relationship, about the eternal relationship between the living entity and Krishna. We have a loving relationship with Krishna. We have to just recognize that Krishna is our greatest friend, the most wondrous and wonderful lover, friend, well-wisher, an infallible soldier in our life. We can have a good relationship with friends and, maybe our wife or husband or children, but we can never really, once we try to put our expectations and our love completely on, as the pseudo Krishna, on our wife, our husband, we will be grossly dissatisfied we will be disappointed all the time, because all the living entities, all the forms that we try to love and put on form are fallible soldiers. They will always let us down because they are imperfect. But if we can walk together as a companion with our helping each other, it's okay to be married to someone. It's okay to have relationships. You should have relationships because they are other children of Krishna. You should pay your respects to others. You should love others despite their faults and imperfections, because you yourself have imperfections, Love your neighbor as yourself, right? It's not saying love yourself, but the fact that we spend so much time loving ourselves and trying to think that we're the greatest thing, and we don't care about other people. So we should, but we should also try to help people truly in one way or another to come closer to Krishna. And we can do other things too. We can do little things as showing compassion towards other living entities, because so many people are in great fear and unhappiness. A devotee does not live on the material plane, he lives in Krishna. The holy name of the Lord and the Lord are non-different. Therefore, when a devotee chants Hare Krishna, Krishna and his internal potency are dancing on the tongue of the devotee. God, I want to read that again. The holy name of the Lord and the Lord are non-different. Therefore, when a devotee chants Hare Krishna, Krishna and his internal potency are dancing on the tongue of the devotee. When he offers Krishna food, Krishna directly accepts these eatables, and the devotee becomes Krishnaized by eating the remnants. One who does not engage in such service cannot understand how this is so, although this is a process recommended in the Gita and in other Vedic literatures. We should offer our food to Krishna, as long as it's acceptable food. And that's been laid out. No meat, fish, or eggs, right? We should offer these things to Krishna, because then verily we will be eating sin if we just eat them without offering them to Krishna, because of the karmic reactions attached to those foods. And I think we're going to leave off here, because Krishna starts to show the breakdown of kinds of surrender that people can engage in, because people are surrendered at, it's not a black or white thing. It's people are the level of surrender of the living entity is in a very wide spectrum. And Krishna gives, according to the person's surrender, certain kinds of rules and regulations or processes that they can engage in to help elevate themselves in the particular consciousness of where they're at. And it's why the devotees in the past, whether it's the Prophet Muhammad or Buddha or or the Prophet Moses or Lord Jesus Christ, they were preaching to a particular people in a particular consciousness with a particular level of surrender. So they had to approach them with certain kinds of information to elevate them that weren't over their head, So this is what we're going to get into. And people are in different spiritual places. That's why you may see someone and they might be a religious person, or they might be a Christian, or they might be a Hindu and they might have all the right things, the tilak on, they're wearing the right things, they're wearing tulsi beads and whatnot, but their consciousness is not really, they're not completely surrendered. They may be engaging in certain desires that they have that puts them in a particular consciousness. Our spiritual master is a pure devotee of Krishna. Therefore, he has no desires other than to engage in the loving service of his spiritual master in Krishna. So next time we will get into the next part of the Bhagavad Gita. Until then, we will chant a little bit. Yes, chant some more. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Haribo, thank you very much.